Welcome back. You watch Your Morning Live. Now, it's that time of the year again when college and university campuses across the country are flocked with fresh academics that are excited to start a new chapter in their lives. So this morning we put focus on a book called Your First Year of Varsity, a survival guide for college and university. In this read, authors Shelagh Foster and Lehlohonolo Mofokeng unpack all things that the students need to know before embarking on this journey. Sheila's in the studio with me, and Lehlohonolo joins us from our studios in Bloemfontein. But let's start you at home. Shelagh, good morning. Thank you very much for joining me. This guide to how to survive your first year, how did this idea come about, and then how did you and Lehlohonolo kind of meet up to put it together?
So it's a follow-on from my first book, which was Your First Year of Worker Survival Guide. That came out in 2013. And when I was doing workshops based around the book, a lot of people said, particularly schools and universities said, can't you do something for first-year students? And I thought, well, I'd love to, but it's a very, very, very long time since I was at varsity. Yeah. Then I met up with Lehlohonolo on Prof. Jonathan Janssen's Facebook page, and I thought, this guy is amazing, and he's smart, and he's charming, and he writes beautifully, and we connected with each other, and then then I asked him to co-write the book with me. So he covers all the academic stuff, and I cover all the sort of more social things.
Okay. Lehlohonolo, let me bring you into this conversation. So Shelagh says you're smart and you're charming. Is that some of the skills you need to survive your first year at varsity?
Definitely for being smart, being brainy is one of the skills one of the qualities that you'll have to possess. But as for being charming, I think it will get you in more trouble than anything else, because you'll be focusing more on ladies.
So let's talk about the survival tips, because when I think survival tips, I think Bear Grylls in the woods, kind of trying to survive with everything and kind of understanding its environment. So what were some of the survival tips as this conversation unfolded between you and Lehlohonolo that you said, well, this needs to be included in the book?
Well, I realized that academic writing, for example, academic research, academic study, lectures and tutorials are completely different from school. So it's understanding that there are differences and then knowing what the differences are. And obviously we can't cover everything in the book, but just making young people aware that it is completely different. Don't expect it to be like school. And from the more social aspect is that when you're a student, you are now independent and you're in charge of your own life. And there's no more mommy or daddy who's going to run around after you. You've got to find out how things work, where to go, what to do, structure your own time. So those are the kind of things we cover in the book.
Maybe let me bring Lehlohonolo back into this conversation, because one of the big focuses last year was not only safety on campuses, but there's a big safety issue in general, especially around issues related to rape and physical violence. Was that something that came up? I mean, it's quite easy to laugh about it, but you're surviving your first year or surviving any year at varsity or university is quite a serious thing.
It's very serious. And with regard to safety, let's take for instance, you go to a foreign country. One of the things that you'll have to know is how the country takes safety in high regard, whether it takes safety in high regard. And quite frankly, some of our universities tend to turn a blind eye on that aspect of student life, and it's very important for them to really bring it into consideration in their policies and how they respond. Even the students, sexual harassment, the relationship between lecturers and students, who sometimes take students for a ride because of their vulnerability. And I think some of the incidences that happened at UCT and even at VETS in the last 3 or so years have really brought to our attention such important policy issues that administrators will have to take into account when they welcome the first year students, and even to conscientize them about the importance of safety and where to go if they encounter any security issues.
So those were some of the stuff that you needed to cover, but how do you measure the effectiveness of a book like this? Because and now that you're talking about it, there's just so much that even parents can't orient their children around.
It's very difficult to measure the effectiveness, but I think, and I think Lehlohonolo will agree with me, that if you can just get young people to understand that they need to be curious and they need to find stuff out. if you do that, if you go into university or college thinking, I need to know how it works, I need to know how the system works, I need to know where everything is, I need to remain curious with my studies, even that little change of mindset. And the other one is learning to be independent.
Yeah.
So, and curiosity falls into that as well.
Sheila, is that the biggest tip what was the aha tip for you that you would hope that if a young person reads this book that they would pick up on that?
Well, the tip is, I think the best tip is one that someone told me, and he calls it the 8-hour workday. That you go into university or college and you decide, okay, for 8 hours, I'm going to lectures, I'm going to go to tutorials, I'm going to do research, I'm going to join a study group. For 8 hours, I'm going to work. Then 8 hours I can sleep. And then I still have 8 hours for sport or work or whatever it is. So I think the biggest thing is actually managing your time and not freaking out because there's no one to manage it for you.
For sure.
There's no school structure, there's no home structure. You've got to create it. And I think if you can do that, you'll stay strong. I really do think so.
Mr. Mofokeng, the biggest tip for you that you hope that when somebody reads this book that you've put together with Sheila, that they go, that's their aha thing. For Sheila, it's about managing your time.
I think, adding to what Michelle has said, I think being being a leader on your own and mastering discipline, I think those two things are quite very important. You need to understand that now that you are your own person, you lead yourself. Decisions that you take on day-to-day basis will certainly come to haunt you in a positive or negative way. Knowing that you can't work when you feel like it. You need to work extremely hard even when you don't feel like it. You are tired. You need to manage your time wisely so that at least you can know that for a series of tests that I will have to write in the next coming weeks, I will have planned my time wisely so that I can fit in everything.
And of course, stop your party ways. Okay, from our Bloemfontein studio, that is Lehlohonolo Mofokeng talking to us in partnership with the book that he wrote with Sheila Foster called Your First Year of Varsity, a survival guide for college and university. I'm not sure if Lebo needed this book when she was at the university. We'll have to find out, but go and get it. It's a good read. Lebo, steady by.